Think this is impressive? You're not alone. Space is incredibly cool. It's full of planets and stars, glimmering things that instill wonder and awe. Nations across the world have sent missions into space to explore the jaw-dropping view. This is no easy feat, but we do it time and time again. The Voyager, released in 1977, is the craft that has traveled the furthest into unknown space. NASA scientists were quite ambitious, initially wanting to explore the full solar system. They only received clearance to explore the outer planets, however, and they had to meet a very tight deadline for the launch in order to take advantage of gravity assists. The Voyager probe still stands as a testament to the ingenuity of humanity even today, with such a robust design that it would be hard to replicate such a stroke of genius as a fluke. While I will be talking about the Voyager in the single tense, it is important to note that two identical probes were built and released. Except for the actual trajectory of the flight paths, everything about one probe can be applied to the other. So, what exactly made the probe so successful? The technology available several decades ago was much less efficient than what we have today. One of the staples of the Voyager mission was the Golden Record. The Golden Record was a part of the craft that contained various songs and greetings from around the world, a way to introduce who humanity is. Today, we might see a golden USB drive instead. Of course, we'd have to include the infamous Rickroll if we truly wanted to capture what it means to be human. This just shows how far technology has come since then, yet the mission was able to last nearly 10 times as long as it had been planned to go on for. Imagine if the moon landing lasted 10 times as long as we had wanted. It is a feat of unimaginable magnitude, and the Voyager surpasses this. It's the first man-made object to reach interstellar space, so far away that we have to make special antennas just to communicate with the probe. NASA had to identify exactly what the probe needed to do, and supply only what would be used for these tasks and nothing else. There were 11 instruments on the initial launch, only 4 of which remain active for various reasons. The craft includes an antenna for transmitting and receiving radio signals, a radioisotope battery powered by plutonium-238, a gyroscope, and thrusters to control its flight through space. As anyone who studies rockets will tell you, the hardest part about exploring space is getting there. Weight is a real issue when considering deep space travel, and the Voyager managed to be densely packed with functionality to justify being hurtled into the dark abyss. This density allowed for NASA scientists to pack in redundancies. At the time of construction, they had no idea that the probe would be so successful. They were quite paranoid that something would go wrong, and there certainly have been quite a few trials during the mission, so backups upon backups were stacked into the probe to ensure that failures could be dealt with. Keeping these things in mind, we may be able to conceptualize a modern version of a deep space probe. The basic design will likely be the same, since the overall purpose of the probe will not change very much from the initial launch to the modern day. We can look at what failures have occurred on the predecessor to determine where we need to focus our efforts with engineering. The reason why most instruments have been shut off is due to either a lack of power or degraded performance. How do we address these failures and fix them? For one thing, the radioisotope power supply can be updated to a modern version that is more efficient. According to Tracy Honney at Nuclear Engineering International, a California-based company called Infinity Power has developed a new battery. She writes that the battery, developed with support from the U.S. Department of Defense, has demonstrated overall efficiency of more than 60%. This is a huge leap for energy efficiency and addresses one of the biggest issues that the Voyager has. There isn't enough power left on the probe for all instruments to remain active for much longer. Having a more efficient power supply would keep them active for longer, and being able to have a larger battery would allow the overall life of the new probe to be extended. The actual development of this new battery does not appear to be on the market yet, but the fact that this technology exists means that we may be able to plan our probe around it, since we will be waiting a while before we can use gravity assists again. The issue with the bigger battery is that more weight will be on the craft, which means that it'll be harder to get into space and control its flight. We would have to trim down the size of the probe elsewhere to make sure we could fit more battery into it. This leads me into the second improvement: smaller, slimmer, lighter, modern technology. Beyond just the more efficient power source, technology has gotten better over the past few decades. It's one reason why we have been able to communicate with the probe as it gets further away. We build better antennas on Earth to capture the fading signals that the Voyager sends. According to Moore's law, the density of transistors in a computer will double roughly every 2 years. Computers are not the only thing on a deep space probe, but the concepts of computers basically apply to every other instrument on it. Computers translate the signals gotten from the scanners and cameras, which in and of themselves are also getting better as we develop new engineering practices, and processes this information before sending it to the antenna to be sent back to Earth in the form of radio waves. Shrinking the devices allows the probe to be lighter, and a lighter probe can go farther, take more fuel, and smaller devices allow for more redundancies to be packed into a smaller area. These general improvements address the failures of the Voyager nicely. There likely won't be any innovation on the concept of the probe, since the original mission was already able to surpass expectations. But, being able to make things smaller and more efficient, using modern engineering capabilities, we can make something that lasts even longer, going even further than the original. These sort of technologies will only continue to improve over time. And time is something we have a lot of. We have to wait about 170 years since the initial launch for the planets to be in alignment again. There's not a way to get into interstellar space without taking advantage of gravity assists. Not in a timely manner, anyways. Now, why are we even considering a second probe? Hasn't the Voyager gotten all we need? Well, not exactly. Space is vast, immeasurably so. We haven't come close to exploring it all, so there's still plenty that a deep space probe can do. Perhaps it is an innate wanderlust that's built into our DNA, driving us to explore and find new things. This desire is enough to fuel a second mission, a crusader perhaps, to dive deeper into the unknown. Actually sending something to space is the only way to get a closer look at everything. That's why it's worthwhile to look at the strengths and weaknesses of our previous missions to create something that's even better than before.